It's funny, I know I said I definitely, absolutely was not going to be rebuilding or fixing Tahiti's blown transmission. Yet here we are. So first of all, this isn't Tahiti's 4L60E. That transmission has already been pulled from the Tahoe and it is sitting bleeding underneath the tripod. Now this is the 4L70E that I picked up for the Trans Am initially. Now a few of you guys may remember when I announced the build for that and my transmission choice, I initially was going to put the 4L70E here behind the L83. Last minute, literally the next episode, I changed my mind. I decided to go with a little more of a challenging swap and something definitely more performance orientated, and that was the 6L80E. So this thing has just been sitting under the Trans Am since I picked it up. Paid 200 bucks for it, bought it off Facebook Marketplace as a core. So yeah, there's something wrong with this. I don't know what. The fluid that dumped out, it looks way better than the fluid that came out of Tahiti's transmission. So there's that. But so far, what I know, it seems like torque converter failure, at least the converter lockup clutch, was the cause of failure in Tahiti's transmission. And since I ended that last video where I pulled the pan, cleaned it out, I did put new fluid in it, and I did manage to get it driven down to the garage, and it shifted through all gears without a problem. I didn't take it on the highway to test the converter clutch. We know it's probably destroyed anyway, but it does shift normally. It doesn't shift erratically or hard or nothing. So I'm very confident that we can fix this thing. And I'm sure you guys are wondering, hey, why am I even bothering to put my time or any money into this? Well, truthfully, I think I can fix it for free. So I do have the spare transmission here that I'm probably going to salvage the pump out of because I have a feeling Tahiti's is probably destroyed. I have the torque converter that came with this transmission, albeit it could possibly be bad, but I mean, at this point, I got the parts here. If all it costs is labor, I'm going to throw that in and we'll see if it works. And yeah, at the end of the day, I kind of need this thing to move some parts around. I got parts that need to go to storage. I'm kind of in the middle of trying to downsize storage units, so I need to shuffle parts back and forth. And not having the Tahoe running, man, it's just causing me a lot of problems, and I really need that thing so I could do some work with it. And then you guys are probably wondering, well, being I'm here, why don't I just go ahead and all out build the 4L60 before I put it back in? Well, I'm never putting a 4L60E back into that truck ever again. I'm done with it. At the end of the day, you have a 4L80E, you have a 4L60E, you dump $3 grand into each one. The 4L80 is always going to be stronger. You're starting out with a beefier transmission, beefier parts. I don't care how strong you can make a 4L60, it'll probably hang on, it won't be an issue. The 4L80, it's always going to be stronger. So that's what I'm going with. That's what we're going to be swapping down the line. But hell, if I could fix this thing for free with the parts that comes out of this thing with no more cost than just gaskets, fluid, and a filter, why don't we see if we could get her up and running? So let's get this thing flipped over. We'll pull the valve body, see what metal there may be in the pan. Now I literally bought this thing and it's just been sitting. I haven't cracked the pan or anything. I don't know what the hell could be wrong with it. Okay, it's not terrible. It actually doesn't look... Why are there two magnets? Oh, I guess the 4L70s have two magnets? That's just... I mean, that's all clutch. There's no huge, like, shavings in it, like Tahiti had. And I could already tell that the fluid probably looks so good because they did a fluid and filter change on this. Because, I mean, for what's in the pan... Oh, that's not good. For what's in the pan, the filter looks like brand new. So they definitely tried the classic. It just needs a fluid and filter, and fluid change and filter, and it'll be fine. Well, my experience, that never fixes anything. I don't know want to lose our balls now. Our balls are intact. There's a bunch of clutch material in here. Nothing out of the ordinary. I take the lockup solenoid, but let's wait and we'll test Tahiti's first before I condemn it. Because this harness is different anyway, so nothing's gonna be plug and play. Ooh, that's not good, okay. So we're gonna pop the servo out now on the side here, because that's what's going through the band. So that pin on top, under the valve body, that holds it on one side, and this is what actually applies it. The O-ring. So let's get her out of there, and then she'll come out for us. Usually. There we go. Obviously the lockup solenoid, that's going into the pump. Just gotta make sure we pull that out first. And then on this side, there's like a weird little, it's like a plastic connector. I don't know what the hell that's for. I hope I can even use this pump with the 4L60, but let's go ahead and I think it's just sitting next to the pump. I don't think it's going into it. At least let's hope not. Oh yeah. Oh, she's moving. Ah, that comes out with the pump. Okay. This is the junk transmission anyway. I don't care. That's why I'm rushing. All right, there's our pump. Yeah, there's some kind of electronics in here. I don't know what the hell's going on with this thing. I don't know. I don't even know if I can use this on the yeah, it looks like the O-ring. Ooh, okay. I don't know if this is gonna work. Yeah, so on the 4L60, if I recall, the O-ring is on the actual pump. This transmission, it's on the case. So that could be a problem. There we go, that band didn't want to let go. Yeah, that band's pretty toasty. It's probably the usual junk that fails in these things. All right, guys, so I jumped ahead. I pretty much found what I was looking for. I'm not even gonna bother to pull the low roller or any of that out. But I got the, but I pulled a few packs apart. For one thing, the band, it's just roasted. There's little pits in it. And the same thing for that notorious 3/4 clutch. You can see everything is just brown and roasted. Completely done. But luckily, none of this is metal to metal. So even though the clutches are totally roasted, there's little pieces missing. They're all pitted. They look exactly like the band. Nothing was ground down to the point where there was no material left and everything was metal to metal. So we should be good with that torque converter. I don't think we're gonna have, knock on wood, any huge, amounts of metal or anything in there, minus a little bit of clutch material, but hopefully the filter would have caught any of that. So I'm definitely feeling good to put that torque converter in Tahiti. As for the pump, I'm still not sure if that's gonna work with Tahiti, being it is, this is a 4L70, but let's clean this off, kind of throw it back in the transmission. We'll get Tahiti's on the mount next, because that's the one we need to try to fix. junk. Now, ideally, one would use an engine hoist to lift this up, but I am very lazy, and I don't feel like having to rig a chain to it. Oh man, this thing's heavy, huh? You wouldn't think. Oh. Ah! That doesn't look bad. There's still a bunch of, I mean, that's to be expected. Yeah, the filter doesn't really look that bad. Remember, it has like 5 miles on it, but it wasn't, yeah, it wasn't really chunky stuff that made its way back into it, at least. So I'm hoping it kind of got flushed out. So I'm just gonna pull this thing apart, and then I'll check back in with you guys once if I find something interesting, or once I get to the packs, so we can see exactly what they look like. All right, so I got a couple of the drums out. I got the input shaft out. We got a few issues. Well, first of all, our drum here, where the band rides on, it's a little, it's got some ridges. This was brand new going in. However, the band looks friggin' immaculate. So I think that was just metal getting in there. But the more concerning thing that I'm noticing, because this I could just clean up, or I mean, I don't want to drop 60 bucks. I don't put any money into this thing, let alone drop 60 bucks for a new drum. But the concerning part is right here on the input drum. Look at that. It's literally, it's like a valley, like. You can see there's a ridge, down, 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 ridge again, back up to normal height. So that is pretty much screwed. I don't know if I'm gonna have to do some research, if the drum that's in the input shaft drum assembly that's in the hell is it? The 4070, 4065, whatever the hell transmission I just pulled apart. I don't know if that's the same as this. Because if it is, I could potentially swap that over, but then that means I have to mess with the packs, and it's turning out, it's already turning into more than I wanted to do. So, oof. Let's just ignore that for now. We'll flip this over, and let's start checking out the pack, because I'm really interested to see what that 3/4 pack's gonna look like, because this has that upgrade where it adds like a couple of clutches, a couple of steels to it. And honestly, so far, this doesn't look bad. Like, nothing looks burned, surprisingly. Like, nothing looks overheated as far as clutches go. The band looks great. Let's just keep digging. Let's see what we're looking at. Yeah, well, there's a bunch of, I always forget about those things. There's a bunch of metal in there. That's to be expected. Ooh, okay. I mean, come on, look at that. Those look as fresh as they did when I put them in, when I rebuilt this thing 20,000 miles ago. There's no heat spots, no nothing. So I am actually very, very happy about that. Let's dig a little deeper. We'll take the pack below it out. And yeah, I'm not a transmission rebuilder by any means, so half the time I don't even know what half of this shit is called. So if you don't see me giving anything a specific name, it's because I don't know what it's called. This is some kind of a, there's the sprag. This is fine. I'm just gonna try to reverse stack it onto that. So how do I pull this out? We got to do that with it. Same thing. I mean, there's metal in there. There's no heat spots. Ooh, okay. And now we're running into issues. You think a chunk of something got in there? Look at the groove in that thing. Oh, Tahiti, why do you do this to me? Yeah, these, oof, they're just like chewed up. They're just like grooved. All right, well, so much for that, huh? Ouch. Oof. This one's a disc now. All right, yeah, so. I really don't want to put parts in this stupid thing. I'm really surprised it was shifting so well. Now, I don't know if this is just from the torque converter and metal and shit getting in there. This is most likely for me just rubbing the snot out of it after everything got clogged up. It probably didn't have enough pressure and it was just slipping like crazy. How much further do I want to dig? Let's go down one more layer. Let's pull this thing off. Let's pull the pump apart. Let's see how bad it is. I was expecting everything to not look terrible, you know? But, man, was I wrong? Okay, let's see here. Oof. Yeah. It's got a pretty nice groove in it. Yeah, it's kind of. All right, I think I've seen enough. So as much as I'd love to just go online, order a friggin' built 4L80, or even go out to find one and put one together because I haven't actually built a 4L80E before, I'm sure it's not too much different from this, but it's still gonna require a little bit of research, some more time and money that I'm really not looking to put into this thing right now. So here's my plan. Unfortunately, it seems like there's too much of a difference in parts for me to try to mix and match stuff to make one transmission. The 4L60 input shaft, it's toast. The 4L70 is good, but it looks a little bit different. It has like some teeth on the edge of it by the seals, by the Teflon seals. There are some variations in it. The pump seems to be like super different as far as having extra sensors and stuff on it. And just the way it mounts into the case, the 4L60 pump, it has the O-ring on the pump itself, and the 4L70, it drops into the case. And from what I can tell, there doesn't seem to be a spot on the 4L60 case to even use that pump and, you know, put the O-ring on the case side. I could essentially try to use that input shaft, but that drum's gonna need a full rebuild anyway because you saw the 4L70, 4L65. I still don't know what this junk transmission actually is. I gotta look up the code that's on the case. But even if I was gonna use that, I have to rebuild it. It's gonna need the piston upgrades. Well, it doesn't need them, I guess, but it's going to at least need, you know, piston seals. We know we definitely need that bottom clutch pack in that input drum because it's toasted on both transmissions. So regardless, I'm gonna have to get parts. Now, how much I spend on those parts, I want to be as small as possible, so I am not gonna be buying a pump. I'm not gonna be buying an input shaft. So my plan right now is to take the 4L70E or 4L65, whichever it may be, and I'm going to put that in Tahiti. So I'm gonna order a very basic, cheap Amazon clutch kit or eBay. That'll take care of any clutches I'm missing. I'm gonna reuse a lot of the stuff that came out of Tahiti's transmission because those were Alto clutches that went into there. I'm gonna put those into the 4L65/70E. Obviously, we have the good input shaft from the 4L70, and from what I could tell, this is relatively a direct swap for Tahiti. The only thing I'm gonna have to do is switch a couple of wires where the sensors hook up, because the 4070 has, I think, some extra sensors that the 4060 doesn't. But the from just a quick Google search, people have done it, and it doesn't seem to be a big deal. Like, people will get Trailblazer SS transmissions, which is essentially the same thing. It's I think that's a 70 or 75. They even make a 75. I don't know. But yeah, that's my plan for right now. I'm planning on doing this all in one video, so I'm gonna go order up those parts, and I'll see you guys probably next week when we start to put this thing together and get it back in Tahiti. All right, so it is a few days later. I kind of came up with a game plan and did a lot of research, kind of digging online, trying to figure out if this transmission is even going to work in Tahiti, and I pretty much figured out what I'm going to do. So, first of all, the transmission that I have that I got as a $200 core is a 2009 4L65E. So it's not a 4070E like I was told. I mean, if I knew how to read the case tag at the time, I could have just figured that out before I bought it, but whatever, that's my luck with transmissions. Anyway, after doing a little bit of research, apparently up until 2008, you can swap any 4L60E into really any vehicle, providing, you know, it's the correct output shaft, if it's four-wheel drive or two-wheel drive. Up until 2008, of course, the transmission I bought was a 2009, where they absolutely just changed like everything about it. They changed the electronics, the amount of pins in the connector, the wiring harness, the valve body, separator plate. They changed everything, and it's in no way in hell going to be able to work with Tahiti, because at this point in the game, they also got rid of the 3/4, the downshift solenoid. So Tahiti is going to be looking for that solenoid, and you'll probably put a resistor or do something like that for it to fool it, but I guess they figured out they don't need it anymore, so they just stopped putting it in the transmission. And yeah, this 4L65E, it's not, I'm not going to be able to just throw parts in it and put it in Tahiti and have it work how I want it to. However, I think I found a workaround. So after digging around online last night, I came across a thread on LS1 Tech all the way back from 2011. It was the only information I could find on me trying to do this weird swap. So one guy asked, he has a 2009 4L65. He wants to know if he could put it into a 2003 Tahoe. Now, thanks to Vince B, he gave a very specific answer that I hope is truthful and going to help me, because it's still not 100%. But anyway, he replied, the trans will work fine providing you swap out the valve body, the separator plate, the internal wiring harness, the manual linkage, so the shift linkage, that includes the linkage shaft, the rooster cone, and the detent spring. The model you have, so the 2009 4L65, has an internal MLPS. They removed the manifold switch, which is on the valve body, and they also removed the 3/2 solenoid. These were major changes in the 2009 unit. So if you get all the pieces I mentioned, you should be good to go. Smiley face Vince. So that's pretty much my plan that I have to go on. I'm going to take Tahiti's 4L60E valve body, which has the shift kit, well, the Transgo repairs done to it, the Sonics little upgrades, whatever. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take the shift linkage out of this. I'm gonna take the wiring harness out of it, and I'm just gonna swap that over to the 4L65 case, and if he's right, it might work. I mean, the only thing that I can see not working is if there's like a difference in the passages in the case, which we're not going to know until we get the thing in there, because this is such a stupid swap. And I know you guys are probably wondering, why don't I just rebuild the thing? Well, I said this earlier, I'm not putting this transmission back in this thing permanently. The only reason I'm here is basically for experimental purposes. I realized I had this spare trans, so I'm like, I know I have a torque converter, let's just try to piece it together, get it back in the car so I could still have Tahiti running and driving, and it essentially is not going to cost me anything but a little labor and making a video for you guys. So I'm trying to refrain from ordering anything. I did not order any clutches. What I ended up ordering was a seal for the servo, being I had to cut that to get the servo out. I ordered the seal that meets the transmission to the transfer case, because that ripped when I pulled the transfer case off. And I ordered a new band, because the band that came out of the 65E, the junk trans, the core trans, it's completely burned up. And the band that came out of Tahiti, it's still good, but it has a bunch of little pieces of metal embedded in it. So I got a band for 20 bucks online, standard, not extra wide, just standard cheap replacement band. And I kind of pieced everything together. I ripped the transmission out all the way down to the case, and I have my clutches kind of sorted out, and I know what I'm going to use and what I'm going to just junk. So we really are going to be Frankensteining this thing together with good parts from the junk trans, good parts from Tahiti's junk trans, and we're just going to put them together and we're going to hope it works.